Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, Let's Go Dragon, alongside with a newer caster for our scene. Maybe you guys seen him before. It's going to be What to Britty. Is it alright if I call you just Britty instead of the entire name? It might be a little long to
Rudy is
say.
totally fine. It's what I usually go by with all my friends. How you doing tonight, Rex?
Pretty good. A little hectic, and you might have seen that on stream if you saw that I accidentally did not switch it to studio mode and just showed everyone what I was doing with the client earlier. But it's all fixed up now. Been on the move recently, but in any case, I'm here for a pretty good game between Lampost and the AoE CC. Do you have any insights on these teams? I know you primarily casted for your friends, but do you have any thoughts about these two teams here?
AOECC was one of the first games that I casted with ICB. I really did like their playstyle. Their drafting was pretty unique. So I think at the very least we should have a really interesting set of matches here tonight.
Yeah, and I'm going to be looking forward to it as well, as we're already underway for drafting phase. First round of bans been completed here, seeing just some pretty standard bans. A lot of junglers banned away, mid laner or two mid laners, and then a ADC with Swain being picked up here, which is pretty interesting because I haven't seen too many Swains lately, at the very least.
Yeah, Swain is not a pick that we're seeing too commonly, though he's still pretty well liked among aggressive support players. But I have to say, I'm not surprised about the Lamp banning away the Ziggs. Zedris, the ADC for AOECC, has been playing a lot of it in solo queue recently. Just absolutely spamming that champion in the bottom side.
So it makes sense why they banned that away. I would still say that Ziggs is a pretty a pretty strong ADC or APC in this case. Just because he he has a lot of good tower destructions with his kit. He still has pretty decent damage, not as much as the ADC during late game, but I mean that powerhouse in the mid game when you get 2 to 3 items, still going to be pretty impactful. So makes sense they're going to ban that away. We have the Viego and Leona picked up over for the Lamppost side and Braum for AoECCs. Any insights on that?
Leona versus Braum, at least in my opinion, is not a, unless depending on the ADC matchup, not a super Braum favored go against. I'm trying to think of a more creative word than matchup, but Leona just has the ability to all in past Braum's shield pretty easily. And while Braum can do a really good job healing with that concussive blows passive, it's a lot easier for Leona to get on top of the ADC as opposed as it is for Braum.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be a little interesting and wondering why they decided to follow through with that Braum pickup here. Seeing the Volibear going to be picked up here, that could go into top lane or jungle. It's a little bit of a weaker sided jungler when we're considering that the stronger junglers right now I think are... Oh, is it still Nocturne? I know the new patch just came out, so I don't know.
Nocturne got nerfed pretty hard for his laning phase. As far as I'm aware, his jungle pathing is still very strong, really healthy, and has really easy gank path post level 6.
Yeah, so I'd be really surprised if they decided to commit the Volibear into jungle instead of top lane. Just because we still have such a very strong jungler still on the table. Viego is one of the out of the top 3. I think right now is Xin Zhao, Viego, and Nocturne. So I'm surprised Nocturne's not picked up yet, and they're actually kind of dancing around that pick.
Yeah, it was a little surprising to see the Viego make it through past first pick, but I think for these teams, Swain must be a higher priority for either the mid laners or the supports, but at this point I have to assume that the Swain is going to go into the hands of Ogopa in the mid lane.
Yeah, perhaps. I'm not too familiar with Ogopa and his picks at the very least, but I'll be interested to see how that goes. I mean, I really don't think it would be like a Swain top lane with Volibear jungle at the very least, just because, again, you have at least a decently strong jungler compared to like everyone else versus the Volibear, which is like I would still say like a more mid-tier, upper mid-tier at the very least sort of pickup.
Yeah, there is the possibility of Swain being slotted into that ADC position, filling out a similar role to Ziggs. Lots of AoE and teamfight prowess, but not as much tower pushing as Ziggs does. And it is something that Zedris plays in solo queue, so it's a possibility that we do see it here in this game. Echo being locked in as the blind mid lane pick for AoE for Lamp. Again, not too surprising. Echo is something that we've seen the Leroy on before, so not too surprising to see him on it again.
Not too surprising, and now we're actually seeing a lot of picks for a top laner. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be possibly Camille top lane, which means the Volibear will go jungle, and then, like you said earlier, it could be the Swain bot lane, or maybe it's the Syndra bot lane. Similar sort of DPS, I want to say, whatever, for lack of better terms at the very least, whenever you're doing a lot of these team fights, has a bit burst potential as well. But it's still very interesting considering that we have a Braum here as well.
Yeah, Braum not one of these supports that you really see match up with the AP carries in the bottom side, just based on his ability to stack up the concussive blows with the auto attacks. Not usually something that we see spell heavy focus on. But with a champion that can benefit off of CC like Swain, I think I can see the potential of this combo. And into someone like Xayah, who doesn't have a lot of mobility early on, needs that level 6 to really have that safety. There's a possibility that with a slight misstep from Levi, there's a good chance that he can be pretty hard punished here.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll have to see if AoE CC is sort of like a little bit of a non-traditional team. You know, a lot of AP on their side can really beat out something that's a little bit more traditional that Lampost decided to draft out here. We saw in previous weeks, not Levi or Levi, still not sure how to pronounce her name. You said it before, but it's still so weird to me looking at it. Levi, he does really well once he warms up a little bit. Can perform very well as ADC. Let's see, and then Leroy, solid mid laner. Randy Newman has some pretty good synergies alongside with not Levi, and Viego, like I said, really strong jungler. So I'm going to be very curious to see how AoECC's plans to really match up against this team.
Yeah, I think this kind of composition is really a dream state for Poppy. Minimal dashes that are important enough to cancel, really just looking to stop that Camille, and the ability to just build a lot of magic resist. The AoECC side really lacking in pure physical damage. Camille is going to be translating more into that true damage the later the game goes. So I think Poppy just picked up a couple of magic resist items and ends up playing that really good soaking frontline tank pretty well in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, do you want to have any thoughts specifically about someone's team's comes? Because I personally think that, you know, that Lampost has the better draft, but maybe it's the wild card from AoECC that kind of brings it out here. What do you have any, you know, like clear defining winners for draft right here?
I have to say I agree with you. I really do prefer the Lampost draft here. I think the just solid and simple front to back with good backline dive with Viego and Echo and Leona all just jumping on top of these squishier carries. But the benefit, I guess, of having someone like Swain as a bot lane carry is he can get pretty beefy with his ultimate combined with a lot of the items that give him extra HP and a lot of that sustain off of that ulti again. It makes him a lot more difficult to dive. So maybe this is a early read from AoECC trying to just full counter the dive before it can even come through.
Yeah, it does make sense. You know, now that you make those points, I can actually see that sort of point of view from AoECC's in order to try to reasonings why they're drafting this way. But we'll just have to see how that actually plays out here once the spectator delay does finish up here. In about 40 more seconds, we can check out the skins whenever that comes in as well. So, a lot to look forward to here. And yeah, I actually haven't checked out the patch notes for this patch. Anything that pops up to you for that that you checked out here, Brady?
Again, highlights of the patch notes. Nocturne really getting kicked out of the lane. Viego's lane sustain also getting taken down a notch. That Blade of the Rune King sustain going down from 50% on minions to just 10%. Really making him a lot more difficult to pilot without that early item, Blade of the Rune King, as opposed to the passive Blade of the Rune King. As well as, again, Nocturne, just these early sustaining champions that rely heavily on their passives to keep them healthy in the lanes. It's going to make them a lot more difficult to pilot in the early game, a little bit easier to punish.
And as spectator delay has finished up here, we will be swapping over into Champs Lab whenever that the loading screen whenever that does pop up here. There we go. Any thoughts on about the runes so far that we're looking at here? Nothing's poking out at me at the very least.
I think the biggest thing is Camille choosing to take Flash over Ignite, especially in Pro Play recently. We've been seeing a lot of Camille's, a lot of Gwen's, a lot of these champions with good amounts of early game mobility taking the Ignite for that lane domination as opposed to the Flash. Perhaps with the choice of Grasp of the Undying as opposed to something like Press the Attack or Conqueror, maybe looking to become more of a late game frontline bruiser as opposed to the usual split push threat that we see from Camille.
Yeah, I mean, it's been in GRLCS before for just last split. We saw a lot of Tendies too and other top laners taking that sort of similar stride of TP Ignite top lanes, and you could definitely see the dominance and the sort of power. But maybe Camille is thinking, I'm not really going to try to snowball too much against Poppy, who can really just disengage or stop all my sort of engages. Especially whenever there's when you're trying to, the best way you can get a gank off is to have Volibear actually land his stun first, so then they can't stop, or then Poppy won't be able to stop you with your hook shot. But it's still going to be interesting to see how, the Flash is going to turn out, looking to play for that later game like you were talking about earlier. And,
maybe looking for that hook shot Flash engage to try and just catch Levi out unawares on that Xayah pick, get that Flash Hextech ultimatum, make it easier for Swain and Syndra to knock him down.
Yeah, definitely. So, and as we are finishing up loading into the screen here, we're just going to be introducing some of these teams. We're at 100%, but still, here it is. All right, so do you want to introduce this blue side for us while I get the whole screen ready?
On the blue side, we have AoE CC with Nikwar up in the top lane, Sleeping Giant in the jungle, Ogapot in the mid lane, Azedris in the bot lane in that carry position, and J Core in support.
Yeah. While over on our red side, we have Lampost in the top lane playing that Poppy. We have Death Grips in the jungle playing that Viego. Alongside of that, we got Leroy in the mid lane playing the Echo. And then to round out our comp, we got ourselves Not Levy and Randy Newman playing the Xayah and Leona. Very aggressive bot lane, but we're going to have to see if that can actually play out into AoE CCs.
So we might have a little bit of early action here. Sleeping Giant stepping forward into the Leroy, taking that Electrocute proc. Just trading a little bit of HP to get the ward down. Not going to give up too much. Looking to recall anyway to pick up the sweeper.
Yeah. Good move in all cases. We're curious about what's happening over in this bot lane here, but I don't think we're going to be seeing too much action.
Lots of action here already in the early game. Both these top laners just trying to take the grass proc trades. Nikwar landing that sweeping edge, getting a little bit of health back there. But both of them just taking that one grass proc and walking away, looking to stack it up as early as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting a little bit of a health advantage since top lane is such a long lane. You can't just go ahead back and try to make it in time for in time for lane, and especially if you're trying to do a little bit of a fake out of where your jungler is going to start, whether red or blue buff. In this case, we're seeing Sleeping Giant starting off on the blue, and then Death Grip starting off starting over on his blue as well, so he can get that little bit better of appeal for or leash.
Yeah, getting the it's the difference between two people leashing you and one people leashing you, especially with champions like Leona. Really easy early game CC makes the buff deal that little bit less. Already seeing that pretty early action bottom lane. Yeah, power of that Swain Braum combo. Once Swain lands that passive, it's pretty easy to grab that Electrocute proc. Already 2 for 2 on these grasps. Very good for Azedris in the early game here.
Yeah, really nicely done. I mean, for such an untraditional bot lane, trying to play towards your strength of the enemy, not necessarily understanding what you need to play around, is going to be pretty beneficial over for Azedris in order to try to really make sure that their laning phase is going to be turning pretty well over on the top lane. We're just seeing a little bit of a wet noodle fight, but it's going to probably pick up once we hit those higher levels, grab a couple items, and then or maybe it will slow down and Poppy just gets too tanky.
Yeah, once we hit that level 3 marker, Camille having the hook shot and Poppy having the ability to block the hook shot, that's where we're going to start seeing the higher skill gameplay. But Leroy a little bit in trouble here, taking a heavy punish on that trade. Good job on Ogopa to be really pressuring the power of that ranged versus melee matchup.
Absolutely, you definitely lose out some of your abilities to trade out this well when you reach level 3 here. So I'm really glad that Ogopapa or Ogopop or Ogopal, sorry, is going to be taking advantage of that early, while Leroy already having to burn his TP so he doesn't miss out on too many minions, because he understands that he is the melee in this matchup. He has a little bit better of a level 3 and into these later levels until Ogopal gets some of these items.
Looks like it's just going to be a trade of Scuttle Crabs for both these junglers. Viego taking that topside Scuttle, and Giant on the Volley Bear just taking the bot side one.
Yeah.
So just farming their Crabs, pretty mirrored jungle clears right now. Nothing too heavy going on, just light trading in the lanes.
Yeah, absolutely. They're being actually very mirrored right now. They're on Krugs for each other's sides. Sleeping Giant, I think, has a little bit more of an advantage being on this bot side here, just because Dragon is spawning up here soon. If Ogapa can get a little bit more of lane priority for himself as well, maybe something happens.
J-Core Core stepping up way too far here. Gonna get punished. Good first blood going over to Randy Newman. The Sleeping Giant is here to get the return kill. Good passive grab from his address, but it is just going to be a 1-for-1. But first blood going to the side of Lamp here. Well played from their bottom lane, punishing a little bit of an overstep from J-Core Core.
Yeah, really well done there. I was saying that maybe we could have set up for a really early dragon if mid lane pushed out a little bit more, but even better, Lamp did a great job at finding the opportunity. We saw J-Core Core stepping just a little bit too much, and Randy Newman and Not Living really capitalizing on that fact to make sure they got a kill out of it. Sure, they lost one life as well, but that did go over to the top laner instead of the 80 or their APC of Swing. So I would say a little bit worth, because you're getting your ADC a little bit online, a little bit. Actually, no, he didn't even get the kill, so I don't even. I'd say it's probably still worth over for the side of AOE CC, because Leona was the one to grab the kill. But in any case,
Leona with early Moby Boots, pretty scary. Slappy, great cancel onto Nick War for the Camille's hook shot. Nick War stepping up really aggressive, but using that Camille's shield to make sure that he stays safe. And Sleeping Giant picking up his second kill of the game. Really showing his dominance early on the map here. Well played from him.
Yeah, being around the map, if we're going from bot lane all the way to top lane here, is definitely helping out. And he's doing a good guy jungler thing too. He's ahead and starting up over the next wave. He might not be taking all the farm. He might just be like lowering it down for Nick War to grab the rest. And, you know, generally the good jungler thing to do, forcing out the TP from Slappy.
Just making sure that wave pushes out all the way, hits that tower. Again, like you said, forcing out that teleport and maybe allowing Nick War to keep his, just given the lane state. We do have to mention that with the first blood, Randy Newman was able to pick up those full mobility boots. If he's going to be hanging out in the lane like he's doing right now, I don't know if I like them over the possible Ionian boots of Lucidity. But if he's going to be looking to roam and push that presence out into the lane, into the other lanes a lot more, maybe make a roam towards mid, punish Syndra for overstepping, I think it should be a really important purchase for the side of Lamp.
Yeah, absolutely. It was mold patches ago, I believe, where they increased the cost of Moby boots, but first the gank in mid lane.
Leroy got that level 6 mark, popping the Chrono Break. Has to flash away here to get away from the gank, but now Slappy's coming in, possibly looking for follow-up, but no, just going to be forcing them to walk away here. I think if you are the side of AOECC, you're happy to take the flash and the ulti away from the Echo here.
Yeah, absolutely. Taking away that flash and ulti away from him, it's going to dramatically reduce his amount to really get away with some all-ins, so that is going to be good to see, especially because Drake is already up. It's Mountain Drake, not something you specifically want to prioritize, but having early Drake dominance is always something you want to look out for anyways, just because you know, getting a kill is nice and all, 300 gold, but if you can get a little bit more off that, grabbing some objectives, grabbing some turret plates, really making use out of the time they're gone is really what we're going to be looking for. So I am going to be curious to see which team actually does take that first dragon, especially because Sleeping Giant's the one with the lead right now, with 2 kills under his belt.
Yeah, especially an early dragon like Mountain, I think is really good for the side of Lamp with champions like Leona, like Poppy, who really get advantage from these defensive stats, like their armor and magic resist. So if those champions can even get that little 6% buff, it can make it pretty difficult for the enemies to come in. But we're having a fight up in the top lane. Nick, we're dropping the Hextech ultimatum, but it is just going to be used as a little bit of damage pressure, and they're just going to walk away from each other. Nick Ward maybe baiting to see if he can get Sleepy Giant his third kill of the game. Unfortunate shield placement. Does get the stun off, even if it gets bopped. And at the same time, we have a fight going on the bottom side as well. Not Levi stepping up too far, and the pressure of the Swain Braum just going a little bit too far. In the top side, Sleeping Giant is not going to be able to finish off the kill on Slappy. He's going to be able to walk away here with a sliver of HP.
Yeah, the auto attack cancel at the end there does not secure him the kill. Don't know if it was because that Slappy was just a little too far away, so he canceled it himself, or if Sleeping Giant canceled it there. But Death Grip's here in the top lane now.
Death Grip's looking for the fight. Heartbreaker coming down. He's gonna get the shutdown gold onto Sleeping Giant. Gets the stun. Nick Ward. Heartbreaker comes in. The flash comes out, and the Blade of the Rune King is just not far enough for him to get away. And it is just going to be a flash trader for a flash and a one for one overall on the map. Death Grips picking up the shutdown gold on Sleeping Giant, maybe coming out a little bit ahead of that play.
Yeah, really well done there from Death Grips. I mean, picking up a kill, and they didn't necessarily lose out too much there. Death Grips was able to pick up a lot of that top lane experience as well, so he's going to be look not too bad for himself, even though he is still a little bit behind considering that Sleepy Giant has one more kill over him. But still, it's Viego. He does really well in sort of matches where he's even behind technically. His ult just does so much missing health damage, missing health percent damage. And then you can just take over whoever is fed, and then suddenly you just become a better champion. And then you can use that to try to help snowball more. You get your ulti reset up even more, and it really just helps you out a ton. But for Viego being ahead, that's just tons of damage, and you don't necessarily need to transform into someone else other than just using them as a reset.
Yeah, the power of the Heartbreaker. We do have an engage on the bottom side. Demon Flare is being popped from Zedrus. Stun going down onto Randy Newman. The teleport's coming in from the Leroy. Great Solar Flare to keep a Zedrus in place. Featherstorm coming down. Zedrus, the Demon Flare pops, and Levi is just going to barely live. Randy Newman also barely living. J-Core flashing forward to get the kill. Good trade back from him, but it is going to be most likely the trade of his life. Unless he can walk away here with the Unbreakable. Leroy maybe stepping up a bit too far forward. Sleeping Giant looking to punish. Has the flash. Doesn't have that Stormbreaker just yet. Looking for Randy Newman instead. Flashing forward. Leroy stepping into the lightning field as well. Popping the Chrono Break. Getting all the way back. But he may just not have a way out of this. J-Core has gotten enough health that he can probably survive the one-shot combo. Tags him with this slow, and that's just going to be another kill picked up for Sleeping Giant. 4-1 on this Volibear at 11 minutes into the game. He's looking powerful.
Absolutely, and with that successful gank in the bot lane, they are looking for something else. But first, the mid lane, just Ogopo, or Ogapa. I'm just going to mess up your name entirely. I'm sorry about that. Going to have to trade out his, but does survive giving up a little bit more pressure over to the side of Lampost, considering that now we have the first Drake going over side of AoE CC.
Slappy looking for the dive. Nick, we're not respecting the power of Poppy. And that's just going to be a free solo kill for Slappy. You have to respect the stun and the ultimate damage on that Keeper's Verdict. Very well played from Slappy. Good knowing his limits.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done there. Really abusing that to damage in the bot lane's 30. Not really.
Yeah, right now we're...
Sorry, go ahead.
Right now we're seeing the power of a Swain that is not behind in the early game. As support even, Swain is very difficult to punish. But Death Grips is looking to make that punish happen. Solar Flare going a little bit wide. TP coming in from, looks like Nick Wars. And it may just be a full disengage. Slappy makes a follow-up TP. Gets the stun on J-Core. J-Core is going to go down. Death Grips looking for the body. Isn't able to grab it. Demon Flare pops off. Ogapa teleporting in. Also picks up the kill on Randy Newman. Now the Heartbreakers are coming in. Death Grips looking for his resets. Hextech all the way and comes down on Slappy. Slappy's going to barely live with a sliver of HP. Death Grips picking up another kill on this Viego and a Heartbreaker for a double kill. And that is 4 for 2 for the side of Lamp. A very messy fight, but it comes out on top for them.
Absolutely. I mean, looking now, we have a 3-0 Viego, 2-1 for the Poppy, and I believe Leroy was able to pick up a kill for himself as well. So, you know, a lot of the members over for Lampost is looking really well. Not Levy is hurting a little bit at 0-4, but as he has plenty of people to rely on for this mid game, so then he can try to make it self more apparent this late game if he goes that long. Death Grip's doing a great job, already dropping their Herald here. It's a pre-14-minute Herald, so that means we're going to get tons of power play gold off of this as well.
That is 320 gold and possibly another plate going into his pockets. No, he was too far away to collect that one. So one plate going to waste, but picking up 2 free plates. Something that we didn't mention in the early game, not Levi on the Xayah, starting with a longsword and refillable potion, as opposed to the usual Doran's Blade or Doran's Shield into these tougher matchups, I think is really started to punish him. That little bit of lost HP and that little bit of not having that Omni-Vamp really making it difficult for him in these trades.
Yeah, it is hurting quite a bit for himself. I do like the idea of the refillable pot, but after you buy the Doran's Blade, just because you are in a situation where you're being poked out a ton in this lane, which is a little surprising. You wouldn't with a Braum support that you're getting poked out so much here.
Randy Newman looking for the all-in here. Solar Flare landing onto 2 people. J-Core with a great Unbreakable to block the Featherstorm. Good double root from not Levi. Death Grips is coming in for the follow-up. Good root from his Edris, but J-Core is just going to go down. Puts the exhaust down onto Viego. Now Viego's got the body. He's got his first reset. Conqueror is stacked up. Heartbreaker comes down, gets another stun. That's a double kill for the Viego. At the same time, Leroy is looking for the all-in mid lane. Does not pick up the kill. Just barely Auga slipping away with a sliver of HP. And now Viego 500 shutdown gold on his back. A very bad spot if you are a fan of AoE CC.
I agree. I mean, right now, we have the 2 junglers pretty much being the primary of power for over the side, or for both sides here. But for Lampost's advantage, they have also their top laner doing pretty well.
Slappy looking for another dive, but may have just overstepped his bounds. Nick War flashing in to get that last hit. Leroy maybe looking to clean up what his teammate couldn't grab, but with the wave dying out, he's gonna choose to just back off and pick up the CS.
Yeah, we did see that they had the control ward over into that tri-bush there, so Leroy, once he stepped in, he knew that he was already spotted out here, didn't want to go for a potential, or go for a dive that could very much go wrong and suddenly spring out their small lead of 900 gold, roughly 1,000, and then bring that down, but ooh, nice.
Nick Ward does get picked up by the last hit of that Hextech Alternator, that little bit of extra magic damage, and Pen just securing the kill for Leroy. Now 3-1 on the Echo, looking very strong in this game alongside his jungler.
Very much so. Bot lane still struggling quite a bit here, but is just fine. Like I said, I mean, you have Leona, who's going to be just the CC bot that you always need in order to dive in with Death Grips. Ooh, the flash.
Sleeping Giant looking to punish the Leroy for overstepping a bit here. Ogapaw in the meantime picking up Levi on the bottom side of the map. Slappy here looking for any kind of follow-up, but it might just be a 2 for nothing trade across the map for AoE CC. Death Grips is here looking to get something back. Great Zenith Blade from Randy Newman to catch out J-Core. The Lamp side will at least get 1 kill back at the very least.
Yeah, really nicely done from Death Grips. Just being able to pick up that last kill there, and Randy Newman landed that last Zenith Blade onto JJ Core, and make sure they did get at least something out of here. Is gonna, you know, help them keep up this lead here. They've been slowly growing it out. They were in a little bit of a deficit at the start of the game with Sleeping Giant having what was 3-0 at some point, but then losing out that lead, especially from that team fight bot lane, and then starting to divulge a little bit more. But now we have Lampost doing a great job expanding the lead. It's 1.4k gold. If we look over at the gold differences, we're seeing 1,000 over for the favor of Death Grips actually for the jungler, and 700 for Slappy, and very even in the mid lane. Only 200 behind for Not Levy in favor for Ezreal, and then the support's just about 100. So that's pretty much evening out the gold to the 1.3 lead that Lampost has.
Yeah, and in the meantime, Lampost was able to pick up that Cloud Dragon, they do end up grabbing that bit. We do have an Ocean Soul map again for these for this game and this whole team fight comps, both of them. Ocean Soul is going to be pretty important for them since we're taking these pretty long, drawn-out fights. If one of these teams can secure this Ocean Soul over the other, I think that's going to be pretty game-deciding.
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't talk a little bit about this, but prior to this being Ocean Rift, we do have the Clouds Drake being taken up by Lampost here, which is going to be pretty good for DefGrits and the Leroy, not Live, and Randy Newman specifically, just because you love seeing those ults up more often. Slappy, you can kind of go without the extra 10%. It's nice in some cases, but more often than not, you probably already have that up just because there's not too many situations where you're just throwing that out there to throw it out there.
Yeah, I think everybody but Slappy is super happy to see a Cloud Dragon. Randy Newman with the Solar Flare, Levi with the Feather Storm for that little bit more safety, just to get away from the Swain Braum combo that has been, in Frank, being very dominant in this laning phase, more so than we expected. I think there were definitely other options for support, maybe Braum just being a comfort pick for Core, but otherwise they're making the combo work very well. Leroy looking for an engage, Timelinder landing, Randy Newman looking for a Zenith Blade in. Ogapa getting stunned up, and now Randy Newman is the only one on top of him. And in the meantime, Zedris and Nick War are on the back line. Deathgrip's looking for a Heartbreaker here. It does get shut down by the Sleeping Giant. Nick War does end up picking Slappy up as well, and that is 2 for nothing for AoE CC, and they're looking for more. Sleeping Giant lands the Stormbreaker, and Randy Newman is going to get picked up by Core, making the whole fight 3 for nothing in the favor of AoE CC. Very clean fight for them. Well done taking advantage of that 4 versus 5 fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Good job on taking advantage of that, and I think this was also a little bit of a misplay coming out from the side of Lampost here. Ooh, Leroy getting just towered over right there too. He staying a little too far forward with a tower that was almost dead anyways. But yeah, I think it was a little bit of a mistake on their part here. They had some people going over for Ogopa, but not, and then having the Leroy have to, you know, leave that commitment there, leaving Randy Newman the only one there to fight them while Slappy's holding up 2 people there. DefGrips try to get in there. His Heartbreaker does a lot of damage, but all the missing % health damage comes from or only goes onto one person everyone else just takes a flat amount of damage, so it's not going to be as strong as you like it to be, even though it's that huge AoE circle. And because of that, they're fighting a little bit broken up there, and Sleeping Giant was able to take down the shutdown from DefGrips and then sort of snowball that fight into their favor. And now we're seeing the gold leads shift right back on over 1k over for AoE CC, but nonetheless, it is a very close game here, where junglers are doing a great job on both sides. 7-1 over for Sleeping Giant, and then 6-1 for DefGrips.
Yeah, we're seeing a very top side of the map focused game here. Both of the bot lanes not really having an incredible amount of influence. The support's doing the best they can to just apply that CC, but the bottom lane carry is getting a little bit behind early, and the jungler's just trying to pick up that slack as much as possible. We do have to mention, during that fight, Levi was able to pick up a solo tower on the bottom side, so he was able to get a good amount of experience, CS, and gold from that, which is going to help him accelerate into the late game a little bit faster, but already being behind his Edris, not a great spot for him to be.
Yeah, definitely. But now we're seeing the Drake is spawning up here in about 20 more seconds. DefGrips already took his recall, so he's heading right back into there. But because of that, his team is going to be down a member at the very least for trying to take up early site control. But let's see if we can try to fix that up a little bit with Leroy's engaged. Not going to hit anyone just yet, but we do have a 4v4 going in for possibly a flank as well. We're seeing Slappy with the TP.
Good CP from Slappy. Solar Flare not landing the stun on anybody. Zedris popping the Demon Flare. Randy Newman getting a little bit low here. Featherstorm popping out. Now Levi picking up the kill on his Zedris. Unleashed Power not going to find a kill here. Randy Newman going down as well. That's 2 kills for the side of AoE CC. 3 kills going down for them. Great Featherstorm to land on a bunch of people, but the damage follow-up is just not there. It's a double kill for Nick War. And Sleeping Giant is looking up to clean up the last bit of that. And it is an ace for AoE CC. Only losing 2 in the process. Again, those 2 bot laners just being left out in the cold, but it is going to be a 1-team fight for AoE CC, and the reward will be the first Ocean Dragon of the game.
Yeah, progressing themselves down towards getting this Ocean Soul is going to be really helpful. Nick War also committing his DP earlier there, so he got into the fight a little bit later than Slappy, but it didn't really make didn't hurt them at all, considering how grouped up that Lampost was in that team fight. They were all pretty much bunched up against that wall there, and because of that, it made it really easy for JJ Core and Ezreal to really get a lot of CC in. Ogopa hitting that huge scattered or weak, stunning everyone there, and then Sleeping Giant bring down the Stormbringer in order to get huge amounts of damage off, really shutting down their source of damage there. Not Levy really getting a really good, blade color in order to do a bunch of damage, but he's not really built right now at this point in order to really do or be that sort of strong point that they're playing around in these fights just yet.
Yeah, definitely building much more focused on utility and a little bit of tank shred. Just trying to apply that anti-heal as quick as possible to the Camille and the Volibear. However, again, a very well-played team fight from AOECC. Losing those bot laners, but like we were saying earlier, the bot laners aren't having a huge influence in this game. So I think they're willing to take those trades all day. Now about 3,500 gold lead in their favor. And in the meantime, they were able to clean up the last bits of those towers, even out the tower score now 3-3 for both sides. Core maybe stepping up a little bit too far here. Randy Newman's got the support of his team as Edris is looking for the engage here. Slappy just is not taking any damage on this front side, now starting to get a little bit low. Leroy forced to pop that corner break, gets himself out of there, but Sleeping Giant just unkillable on this front line. Now Death Grips is coming in, looking to shred him down with the Divine Thunder or Heartbreaker coming down. Randy Newman doing his best to delay the rest of the team as much as possible. Sleeping Giant going legendary on top of Death Grips. Another great blade color from not Levi, but he just doesn't have the damage to follow up. A double kill for Sleeping Giant, looking to make it a triple. Slappy forced to run away on the back of this team fight, and it is going to be the Baron started up for AOECC, and Nick Ward just making sure that ace is fully secured. Another 5-for-1 fight from AOECC, really showing the power of their mid to late game skirmish here.
Yeah, doing a real good job. Having double mages is going to be that sort of super strong sort of mid-game power spike, where 2 items is really what all you need in order to get going, while ADCs really start going around 3. So really, playing towards their strength, where this mid-game is just their powerhouse. A little slow doing this Baron because they don't have the ADC, but like I said, I mean, if you have an ace, if you ace in the other's team, you have all the time in the world on there to do that Baron. So now they're going to be happily going away.
Can't steal the Baron if no one's alive to take it. I think a smart play there from AOECC, just making sure to secure that Baron, and we'll see what they can do now with the Baron in their hands. Still that outer tower up in the top side to pick up, but a couple of them haven't reset yet. Sleeping Giant on this Volibear has been absolutely massive this game, almost at that 4-item power spike already at 26 minutes into the game. We were a little worried about the Volibear, maybe not as high up on the tier list as other junglers, but Sleeping Giant has really been showing his proficiency on this champion, being exactly where he needs to be.
Yeah, he's doing a great job onto this Volibear. So definitely, I would say we had underestimated on how well we thought he would do, and he's really showing us like he's still a pretty good jungler. We saw him previously in some matches where if all 3 of the previous ones were banned away, this was one of the picks that they really emphasized. And I could definitely see the power that if someone's piloting this Volibear really well, can really show how impactful this is going into, seeing that he already is on 3 out of 3.5 essentially with that Spirit Visit, or with the, what is that called? It's
Spirit Visage on the way?
Spirit Visage on the way, but Spectral Crown in his inventory right now, that's what I was thinking. He's pretty much already there. He's almost at 4 items, while everyone else on the other side, we're seeing like Not Levy is only at 2.5. Same thing with Leroy, and then Slappy also pretty much at that 2.5 point. So he's a whole item ahead of most people in the game, while Death Grips is the only other person that's close to him at 3 items, slowly building up to his 4th, not even a halfway point yet.
Yeah, it looks like AOECC is going to start to try and siege this down. The Land wants to look for the engage. Great Zenith Blade from Randy Newman, landing the stun onto Ogopa. Death Grip's looking for that backline dive. In the meantime, Sleeping Giant is just running a train on the rest of his team. Death Grip's popping that Sterex gauge, but he just gets blown up by the Unleashed Power. That's 3 for nothing for the AOECC side. Making sure just to land that double kill for Sleeping Giant. 15-1. And with that team fight win, they may just look to end the game here.
Yeah, Baron buffs with minions is going to be helping them out. They don't necessarily have anything to tank the towers for them, but here comes the next wave, and I think this is going to be spelling out the end, because I don't think Slappy has enough power in order to try to get a pentakill. But, you know, I've been wrong before. I'm not... If he wants to go for it, I wouldn't be opposed, but...
Just nothing that Slappy can do here. Hextech Ultimatum making sure he can't get out, and that is going to be game 1 going the way of AOECC. A little bit of stumbles here and there in the early game, but they close it out clean. Well played from them.
Absolutely well played from them. Just general things to point out there. The junglers in this matchup was really important. Death Grips did his best in order to do this, and he was doing really well on one of the more meta sort of junglers, but Sleeping Giant was kind of a beast here. We saw him bot lane, traveled all the way up to top lane. We didn't see too much presence in the mid lane, but I'm assuming he already had, he had this comms going on with Okpa, being like, yeah, I can handle myself mid lane. I'm just gonna scale up, get to my 2 item power spike, and then we're just gonna start rolling over the other team. He was like, all right, bet we're going to start going bot lane, getting double kills, going top lane, getting another kill, grabbing heralds, grabbing dragons, and really just staying on top of this objective sort of game.
Yeah, Sleeping Giant really showing his stuff in this game. If I have to pick a particular MVP for this first game, I think it has to be him. He was really making his presence known all over the map. Really well played from AOECC game 1. And we're hoping to see a good return from Lamp coming into game 2 as well.
Yes. So I am going to be interested to see how does Lampost aim to try to make amends for what they did in that draft. They drafted what we thought was a really good team, just all around. It was very traditional in the sense that it's like, it's very front to back. It was very telegraphed on what you think your power spikes are going to be. And then, AOECC comes out here and is like, we're just gonna pour everything into the mid game and just overwhelm you before you can even get to that late game point to where you just kind of outscale us.
It's the big difference between drafting for meta and drafting for comfort, and we saw the advantages that they could bring, that AOECC could bring with those comfort picks. I have to say I was really impressed with their mid-game play. Again, maybe a little bit of stumbling in the early game, a lot of that gold lead just being tossed back and forth, but when they picked up that gold lead for that final time, they just kept it running. Very well played from them.
Very much so. So we'll be right back. I'm going to grab myself some water. You guys should too. And then we'll be back for game 2 of this series, where we're going to be looking at how does Lampost aim to try to really bring it back here. So we'll be right back.
See you then.
What's up? We are back. We just saw an amazing game one here. We just saw the AOECC pull out a really strong, just dominating sort of mid-game sort of team comp. They knew what they wanted to go for and they executed it perfectly, leaving a lot of power for the mages, with the double mages doing a lot of CC, doing a lot of damage, and having Sleeping Giant just really pop off with that Volibear in the jungle here.
Yeah, I think we have to say execution was definitely the name of the game. AOECC knew what the win condition of their team was, and they went for it head first. You gotta appreciate what they were looking for.
Absolutely here. Bans looking pretty much the same here. Lee Sin, so 3 jungler bans alongside of the 2 bot lane bans, and then Seraphine, which could be support or mid lane. Either way, pretty much the same first round bans, and the first pick up here is going to be for Slappy this time.
Yeah, again, Swain being the first pick on the blue side. Maybe a bit of a read from both of these bot laners, or maybe even the mid, but highly contested champions so far, and I think we're hopefully going to see why in this game too.
Yeah, hopefully. So, I mean, and then on the red side, they are going to be responding with the Volibear picked up immediately. So I'm assuming that Sleeping Giant's 3 strongest champions are going to be that Graves, Lee Sin, and Volibear, and then just most comfortable with like, yeah, let's give them the Volibear. It's not going to be as snowbally as like a Lee Sin, as a damaged Lee Sin, or just a Graves in his prime.
Yeah, Graves, I believe it was the patch, either last patch or the patch before this, got that small buff, that 2 extra AD, but with a champion like Graves, who's so focused on clearing and all of his abilities are based on that physical damage scaling, it can be a pretty big buff for a champion like him. So I'm not surprised to see him hit the ban list if it's a comfortable champion for Giant. But we do see him on the Volibear again. It's going to be pretty scary if the Lamppost side cannot handle it.
Yeah, but AOECC also picked up the Ezreal there here, which also screams that they are going to be maybe planning for another strong sort of mid-game pickup here. Ezreal, one of those champions who is strong at 2 items, while other traditional and crit ADCs are strong at 3. So maybe we're looking at another mid-game game plan coming out of AOECC, but the response coming out from Lampost here is going to be Kayn, which is, I would say, a little bit of that mid-game to late-game sort of person, where he just has a lot of power whenever he does get his form, and it Jinx, the classic hyper carry in the late game, also going to be picked up here.
I was about to say, we were talking about traditional crit ADCs. Jinx basically fits the mold perfectly. And in response, we're going to see Nick War on the Camille again. His performance, despite the early game maybe being a little disrespectful of what Poppy can do, mid and late game, he highlighted the team fights really well, picked out the targets he needed with the Hextech Ultimatum, and really was able to clean up a lot of these fights in ways that other top laners couldn't. So I have to say, props to him. Good to see him on a comfort champion once again.
Yeah, for Lampost, it is a similar, I want to say, sort of draft here where they already decided what their jungler is going to be, they already decided what their ADC is going to be, and then Swain could go in a lot of ways, but I believe previously it wasn't the top lane that was picked up. What was it for Lampost that they picked up first?
No, for Lampost, they had held on to the Poppy for that last pick. I believe that they had shown the Leona, which they are now banning away on the blue side here, as opposed to picking it up on the red.
Yeah, smart choice. Ezreal, like I said, was a mid game. Is that early to mid game sort of ADC where he has pretty good points where he's very strong compared to crit ADCs. So getting rid of some of those aggressive supports is going to be helpful here. The Alistar, another aggressive support, is going to be locked in over for the side of AOECC.
Can't take away all the aggressive supports. Champions like Leona, like Nautilus, can really punish Jinx. A champion really based on positioning can really be easily punished. None of that mobility, similar to a champion like Ezreal does. So seeing the bans of like Nautilus, Leona, Thresh, those champions being taken away, not too surprising. Alistar being picked up as that punishing support, trying to just make sure the Jinx gets to have as little fun as possible. Now with the Mordekaiser being the response this time into the Camille, Slappy maybe looking to fight a little bit more early in the game, as opposed to just trying to scale it to that late game tank with the Poppy.
Yeah, very interesting to see. He will have some pretty good use out of this, because if he can just if he sees that one singular person super fed over on the side of AOECC, he can just send him to the death realm. Not kill him, but maybe stall out long enough in order for his team to win out, hopefully the 4v4. And it looks like we're going to see yet another Syndra Echo mid lane, but switched for the summoners.
Yeah, the Syndra and Echo run back in the mid lane. It's interesting to see that we see Echo picked into Syndra again and Syndra being blinded. We are going to have Swain be the support this game, unless we see something crazy like we're hovering right now with Randy Newman holding on to it. I don't expect that's what we'll see. Swain support, sometimes a very frustrating support to play against. Has a lot of that good poke, good crowd control. Past that, doesn't really bring as much as a tank support like Alistar does, but in the early game, can set up Jinx to just clean up some of these very easy kills.
Yeah, so we'll have to see how well Lampost is going to be piloting this team comp, which is very similar. It's still very front to back how we see, and AOECC also aiming for a little bit more of the front to back, but still has a lot of notes of that sort of stronger mid-game sort of team, with Ezreal Echo being a strong mid-game, Camille really hitting off in that mid to late game, Volibear also that mid-game, and then Alistar always there for the CC. So I'll be interested to see how this is. It's a little bit more catered towards that later part of the game as well, so they're not going to be completely stranded out if their mid-game overwhelming dominant strategy is not going to play out.
Yeah, it's very similar teams comps from both of these teams here. Both of these sides deciding that it wasn't the team comp that was really bad, it was our execution. Coming into the game, we're going to make it better, execute on it a little bit harder. I think, given how we saw the last game go, I have to start tipping my favor more towards AOECC. They were able to pilot this comp really well. Nothing really big changing on it. Maybe a little bit less crowd control in the bottom lane. Ezreal, Alistar bringing a little bit less than Swain Braum. But it is just going to be those similar notes of, hey, we're going to take some early skirmishes, get a small gold lead, and then just try to accelerate that in the mid game as much as possible.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, especially now with Lampost's response here. Mordecai, so less of traditional sort of tankier frontline units for the Jinx. We're opting in for more fighter style top laners with the Mordekaiser, Kayn also being there. If he goes for red, Kayn's going to be that fighter style. Blue, a little bit more of that assassin, but he'll still be pretty much in that front line in front of the Jinx, peeling in the sense that he is a high priority target, and then Swain as well being there to try to provide a little bit of that sort of peeling, but more so it's a lot of fightery sort of styles. Not too much CC coming out of the team unless Kayn goes red. Syndra always has that scattered weak, and then Swain with that Death's Grasp.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a nervous game if you're playing Jinx. You don't have a lot of traditional peel. No champions like Thresh or any of the enchanters like Karma, Soraka, Lulu. Nobody who's going to be just sitting on top of you, making sure you're staying safe. The peel is more damage threats. Swain, Kayn, Mordekaiser, all champions that need to be dealt with. So they're going to be potentially higher priority than the Jinx. But if the AOECC side decides to just make the Jinx a priority target, there's not a lot that his team can do to save him.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how it will go for this one. We are finishing up the spectator delay, and now we already talked about pretty much how we think about the team comps here. I am interested to see... in the first round of bans were pretty much the same. I'm really curious why they're focusing in on specifically these champions. We talked about the Ziggs, and we're assuming that Sleeping Giant is just pretty much gods on Lee Sin and Graves, alongside of Volibear, which is probably his third pick, why they're not banning it. But I'm interested to see why they're not really or AOECC is very focused in on the Seraphine, Caitlyn, and Xin Zhao ban. Xin Zhao being the strong meta jungler I can see, but Caitlyn and Seraphine are two that I wouldn't necessarily say would be directly counters to what their team is trying to do.
I would call it almost a soft counter where Caitlyn and Seraphine just stay as far away as possible, these poke style champions, and especially with Seraphine, the more peel focused, really has the ability to, if a small misposition is made or if the team isn't set up correctly, they can really punish some early game mistakes with high damage in a really safe way, which is going to make it, again, very difficult for a team comp style like AoE CCs to punish. Something of note here, we see Nick War with the Ignite this time up in the top lane, maintaining the Grasp of the Undying, but now choosing to grab that more aggressive summoner spell into the Mordekaiser.
Yeah, and, well, since we already loaded up into the game here, you want to go ahead and introduce this blue side for us?
On the blue side, we have Lampost with Slappy on the top lane on Mordekaiser, Death Grips in the jungle on Kayn, the Leroy in the mid lane on Syndra, not Levi on Jinx in the bot lane, and for his support, Randy Newman pulling out the Swain this game.
Yeah, and over for the side of AoE we're going to be seeing Nick War once again piloting the canoe in the top lane, as you were noting, but taking the Ignite this time. Sleeping Giant also picking up that Volibear again in the jungle. Ogopa. I am really bad at your name, I apologize. But playing the Echo this time around in the mid lane here, while as the Esdras is and J Core. I don't know why I want to say JJ Core, but J Core is going to be piloting the Ezreal and Alistar bot lane.
Once again, we're going to see both the junglers starting on opposite sides of the map. Sleeping Giant once again opting to have the top lane leash and allow his bot lane to get that little bit of early presence in the bottom side of the map.
You're going to be seeing that's giving a much safer sort of clear over for Death Grips over on picking up this bot lane peel. Is this definitely going to be healthy, especially because he is playing the Kayn. His red side clear is very much his healthier tier because he can just grab the Raptors immediately. So it's going to be interesting to see if maybe there's some sort of gank he wants to try to do pretty soon after he grabs his third camp, maybe mid lane, maybe top lane. But it'll just have to play out in that way, and we'll just have to see if it does.
Yeah, good early trading on the side of Lamppost, forcing out the really flash from his Edris here. Ezreal not respecting the power of the early Ignite and Swain here. On Ezreal, it's less painful to lose your flash just with that arcane shift, but early on it could be pretty punishing for him. So we'll see if Lamppost can end up punishing that before that flash comes back up.
We will have to see. Well, in the top lane, Slappy and Nick War is doing a little bit of a wet noodle fight, like I said previously, but they are both doing decent amount of damage. Slappy getting pretty good parts of that trade for how long Nick War was in his passive.
Core looking for the engage, maybe just grabbing that headbutt pulverize and just looking to walk away. Nothing too massive going on here.
Yeah, no real strong level 2 aggression outside of that level 1 thing we had with Randy Newman able to land Death Scraps over onto it, but now Death Grips in the top lane and some Giant in the mid lane.
Ganks from both the junglers here. Nick War looking to get away with that Coke shot. Death Grips looking to try and chase him down. And with the Leroy coming in to make sure that he cannot get away. Sleeping Giant's on the wrong side of the map to help out Nick War, and that is first blood going over to Leroy. Losing his flash in the gank, but picking up first blood for it, I think he's going to be happy with that.
Yeah, especially into this Echo lane. We saw previously how Opa was really well Syndra into the Echo, really getting a lot of damage off early. Ooh, a little bit of a fail on that one from J Core.
J Core not landing the headbutt pulverize. I think if he lands that, Randy Newman is just dead. He does have the flash. He can look for something really aggressive here. Sleeping Giant maybe looking for the dive here. Again, J Core looking for these headbutt pulverizes. Sleeping Giant looking to flash in, trading a flash and a heal for it. J Core is getting very low. Not Levi looking for the kill. Doesn't want to step up too far into that fog of war, and it is just going to be a very strange trade of summoners with Zed just also blowing his heal. I have to say the bottom lane skirmishes are very active, but a little confusing.
Absolutely. Randy Newman already almost having his Ignite back up, so he'll have that and be pretty much even for summoner spells, not Levy having his flash still available, so he can still flash away from these headbutt pulverized combos. We have to be careful of this head splash coming in. Yep, they aren't going to be tricked by that just yet here from the bot lane, but it's still a lot of action coming out here. Keep both sides very low, and J Core doing the good guy everything and holding the way for his ADC.
Making the support play, holding the way, make sure it doesn't hit the tower. A very slight CS lead in favor of his Edris right now. Jinx being forced to back on a pretty awkward wave, but again, because now Levi has started with this longsword refillable as opposed to a Doran's item, he's going to be able to pick up the full Noon Quiver, even being a little bit behind.
And that is going to be quite impactful here, especially considering that Ezidris was forced to pick up a tier and longsword in return, rather than being pick up something a little bit more impactful. Could have opted in to try to go for a Sheen here, going for pure combat stats, but I think he's really aiming for that, just that sort of mid-game sort of power spike, get his tier fully stacked at the same time as he builds his second item. Really going to be really impactful once he does get that here, but he does sacrifice some laning power out of it.
Having played with my fair share of Ezreal mains, I do have to say I'm happy that he started with the Doran's Blade as opposed to the tier, where you can get that stacking earlier, but just the amount of power you lose in lanes like that. J-Core not landing another headbutt, Pulverize, taking the Ignite, is ticking down on him. In the meantime, Slappy has gotten to level 6 up at the top lane, and Nickmore might just be dead. Lost himself in the death realm, Ignite not being burned. Sleeping Giant looking for some kind of return in the bot side, not Levi flashing away. Teleport channeling from Slappy right now, looking to make some kind of turnaround. Randy Newman is going to go down. He picks up J-Core with the grasp. Now Zedris is going to be forced to flash away. Slappy has that flash. Doesn't even need to use it. Leroy following up with that teleport and just landing that unleashed power to guarantee that kill. Again, very messy on the bottom side of the map, but overall a winning trade for the side of AOECC.
For
the side of Lampost. Apologies.
There you go. My bad. Yeah, you know, they were just on this side too. I was about to say that. It's like, wait, am I wrong now? But yeah, it's we saw this before. Lampost getting a pretty good lead early on from going to this bot lane. Death Grips this time not there because he was over in being the good guy and covering from mid. So then his bot lane was able to TP down there, get a good playoff, and they didn't have to sacrifice anything for it. They were able to still capitalize on that lane EP and gold as well. So nice plays done all around. Not going to be picking up that Drake just yet. It's going to be the Ocean Drake, so we're not going to see an Ocean Rift this time around, but I am still excited to see which one will be, you know, if it's Infernal, always happy to see Infernal. Teams prioritize that a little bit more just because it's a lot of damage that you guys could be having or be missing out on. You definitely don't want to have the enemy team have that, but we'll just have to see. It actually will be Nick Ward. Oh no, in the Death Wish.
Nick Ward looking for a pick on the Leroy. Hextech Ultimatum and the Ignite comes down. A great scatter of the week, landing the stun on 2. Slappy coming to support his mid laner. Ogapal looking for the flash in. Does get the dash, and that is going to be a kill. Blanks it over to him. Shutdown gold give him, and now Slappy's got the passive and the Conqueror stacked. Can AOECC walk away from this one in time? Ogapal might be the sacrifice, but no. Sleeping Giant coming over the wall with the Stormbreaker to also pick up Shutdown gold for himself. Just like last game, the gold lead is starting to shift a little bit more. Lots of back and forth in these early games.
Absolutely. A little bit of a misplay there. Leroy just got caught out by Nick War, and Slappy had to pay for his sins, or for Leroy's sins as well. On top of that, because he tried to help out his laner, Ogapal able to get the free roam back to there, and Sleeping Giant just coming from his red buff, jumping right on over, maybe to get the advantage off that.
Yeah, I think it's something important to mention was before that happened, Slappy was not only 100% KP, but also deathless on this Mordekaiser, looking very powerful. But in the meantime, we've got a fight in the bottom side. Both supports going incredibly low. The Arcane Shot is going to be... True Shot Barrage is going to be flashed away from him. Is Edris looking to Arcane Shift aggressively, forcing the heal away from Levi. Looks like it is just going to be a heal for heal trade. J-Core using that passive, looking for some kind of engage to give his Ezreal the kill. So far, it's just going to be the trade of summoner spells and nothing more.
Yeah, good flash from both sides. Randy Newman definitely needed a flash away from that True Shot Barrage. Ooh!
J-Core looked for the aggressive flash. I really appreciate that look because he does have the Hex Flash. It's not as punishing for him. But again, we have to say his performance on this Alistar not the same as he's been performing on his Braum in the last game. Definitely a little bit lower than what we were expecting out of him.
Yeah, which is very unfortunate for this laning phase so far, but we still have plenty of time into the later part of the game to see how well this Alistar works better into this team here. I'll still say that it works a lot better than Braum does in some cases, in others, but for now, we're just going to be seeing how it goes with Drake already being taken up by the AWCC.
Slappy popping the Death Realm again. Nick War using the Hextech Ultimatum to pull it back into tower range. Both top laners just walking away on a sliver of HP. In the meantime, Ogapov forced to use, forcing the flash out of Leroy, but also forcing the Chrono Break out of himself. Randy Newman stepping up very aggressively here. Zedras trying to get the damage trades back, using the power of that Sheen. Sleeping Giant looking for some cleanup here. He does have his flash. With the Nimbus cloak, that is just going to be one picked up. Smite coming down, and that's a double kill for Sleeping Giant.
Yeah, once again, Sleeping Giant being this sort of really strong unit that AOECC is really focusing in on right now. Sleeping Giant able to get himself a pretty solid lead, just looking around and being right where he needs to be for his laners to finish up or pick up a couple of kills where otherwise they wouldn't at all. So really well done. I really want to point out that Sleeping Giant's doing a great job as the jungler for his team here. While Death Grip's not on that sort of meta type of jungler, he is falling behind, not in the sense that he you know, not necessarily in the sense that he's dying a bunch of times or he's not keeping up with Sleeping Giant, but more so in the fact that, you know, he hasn't been ganking at all past that first one top lane. So he's behind on form wise. He'll get it faster whenever he gets there because of how Kayn works. He gets more orbs later into the game so he can get form faster, but in any case, it is a little unfortunate how it's going so far, and it looks like we are going to be in a little bit of a pause now.
Yeah, Sleeping Giant's mouse dying a little bit on him. Looks like the players are going to be ready to get back into the game pretty soon. Thankfully, no huge loss, but big issue here for Death Grips, I have to say, given the influence he had on Viego in the last game. Sadly, with the Kayn, he's just not having as much presence, and Kayn not ganking early, not able to get those orbs, not looking to grab that transformation early, especially into Red Kayn with that powerful crowd control. It could be very, very bad for Lamp here.
Very much so, but hopefully when he does get pits it up back into the later parts of the game here, it will be just fine. Like I said, Kayn does get more orbs into later parts of the game, so maybe you don't want to aim to fight early anyways. You might as well just farm up early and then go for fighting where you can get it a little bit better. Looks like our screen's a little bit frozen, but I think this is just a little bit of a pause bug there.
Small client bug, it's coming back. Sleeping Giant using the Stormbringer down. Nick, we're picking up the kill on the Slappy. And here we were talking about Death Grips, looking for these orbs. Uses the Umbral Trespass on the wrong target. Forced a flash to pick up Nick War here. And now with Ogapog getting the roam back, that is just going to be Sleeping Giant going on a rampage now. Again, this Volibear getting very strong in the early game. I'm feeling a lot of deja vu from what our last game of the series was.
Yeah, absolutely. And
in the meantime, we have another fight going on the bottom side. Teleport coming in from Ogapod was canceled out, actually. And it's just going to be Sleeping Giant picking up the kill onto Leroy. Jacob Core looking for some kind of follow-up here. Now the teleport gets channeled by Nick War and Slappy. It's just going to be Randy Newman picking up the kill on J-Core Core. Very messy trades from the bottom side. And the Leroy just getting his teleport canceled and forced, death forced on top of him from Sleeping Giant. Good presence of mind from Sleeping Giant to find him and cancel that teleport out.
Yeah, it is going to be a loss of tower plates over for the side of AOECC. Some gold is going to be distributed over for the pockets of the Lampost here. Going to be pretty nice here. I don't think there's going to be a whole tower just because towers get extra resistances based on how many people are around them whenever each plate falls down here. But it does seem like they are going to get pretty close to it, especially once that 14-minute mark does go down. They are going to be clearing it very easily here in about 10 more seconds, but maybe they'll be able to get plates off.
Death Grips picking up plates up here on the top side as well. We do have to mention he transferred now into that Red Kayn, but J-Core Core looking to punish him, looking for these turret plates. Looks like he's just going to be crowd controlled up, looking for any kind of train back. Ogama doesn't have a lot of mana here. Maybe Death Grips is able to walk out of here if he's able to just sustain it out with that Red Cane form. Yeah, he just has too much healing, and AOECC does not have the damage to kill him.
Yeah, they are going to have to just respect it. Because, you know, Red Cane has so much sustain. He brought the Conqueror in early, so I didn't really make note of that too early on.
X-Tech Ultimatum coming down, and Nickwar's just going to pick up that free kill onto the Leroy. It looks like AOECC looking to get some kind of trade back here.
Yeah, trying to get some trade backs around the map. Just because they couldn't take on Death Grips, they are able to take down Leroy, and the TP coming for Ogpa to the top lane to cover up some of this wave to make sure that resources aren't just dying out on the map without anyone to collect them. So, yeah, as I was saying, I should have pointed this out earlier, but Death Grips grabbing the Conqueror is a pretty clear sign that you go Red Cane here. Typically, sometimes you'll see Blue Canes do it, but more often than not, if you see a Cane of Conqueror, he's going to be picking up the Red Cane. That's going to be his main game plan here. Since you can see what the enemy team is, you can already pretty much guess what he's going to be aiming for in form-wise. Which I like the Red Cane here. Blue Cane is something you would do more so if there's like a high priority target, and in this instance, it would just be like Ezreal because you're not going to be bursting anyone else on the enemy team.
Unleash Power looking to pick up Nick Ward. The Super Mega Death Rocket not going to find him, and Ogapa is just going to take the free kill on the Leroy, flash himself out of there with the Chrono Break. I have to say, Leroy not playing this game the best. Again, based on his what we saw from him last game, a little bit of a disappointing performance. AOECC, again, just looking to push their lead even further. Now, only about a couple hundred gold ahead, but they're playing like they have thousands in the lead.
Yeah, absolutely. They're playing very much well. Very well here. Looking to pick up the second Drake here, which is going to be either the Mountain or the Cloud, but it looks like it's going to be the Mountain Rift this time around. More walls all around the map, so it's going to be interesting to see. No Viego to really capitalize on that thing, but it is going to be limiting some of your wards' full potential just because these extra walls are going to be blocking some vision.
As a support player, I have to say Mountain Rift, my least favorite rift. It makes all my usual ward spots feel very bad. Sleeping Giant looking to just walk away from these big damage traits here. Maybe force, yeah, Stormbringer over the wall. Gets to keep his flash. But Slappy maybe looking to follow up on him. Trying to heal up off his Raptor camps as much as possible. Slappy really looking for some kind of trade here, but Core is here for the follow-up. Slappy just taking a huge amount of damage. Good press attack proc from Sleeping Giant. Looking to just stall out the Death Realm as long as possible. He's just going to be able to pick him up inside the realm. A little bit over-aggressive from Slappy. I like the look, but Sleeping Giant is just way too big on this Volley Bear right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Volley Bear being 6-0 with the Divine Thunder already finished. He's doing a lot of damage, and speaking of a lot of damage, he is looking to do a little DPS check over at Death Grips a little bit, but he's just going to be zooming through the wall right there. And not really looking to fight that a 1v1 versus the bear just yet. I mean, in terms of sustain, I feel like Sleep would have the upper hand in that just because the W heal alongside Divine Thunderers is going to be a little bit better than Gore Drinkers.
Sleeping Giant looking for another re-engage here, but the crowd control combo is really good. Grabs the shield from his E and is going to be able to walk out of here just barely. Good flash to get away from Randy Newman. Randy Newman not ticking down to the Ignite, just barely surviving. But Core maybe stepping up a little bit too far. Does the auto attack kill? No! And in the meantime, Ogapa is going to be able to pick up Randy Newman on the backside, using that Chrono Shift again to get himself out. Very good presence of mind from him to find Randy Newman just recalling there, and good use of the Chrono Break to get himself back out to safety.
Yeah, definitely good use, and really skill expressive about what Echo should be doing here. Looking for these 1-for-1 picks and getting away pretty even though he has dives pretty far, but now Nick Ward diving in pretty far here for the Leroy.
Nick Ward picking up the Leroy, looking to try and walk away here, but Levi, with only the shield bow in his inventory, just doesn't have the damage to kill off Nick Ward, even with no armor in his inventory. Like we were saying earlier, this is the problem with Jinx in a draft like this. There's not a lot of peel for her, not a lot of room for her to explode in these team fights and look to really get those passive procs off.
Not really going to be getting too off at that. But now looking at it, we are about a minute off here until the 20-minute mark here, which is really a big signifier of going actually into the mid game here. We're still transitioning into everyone into other lanes. Ooh, flash forced out.
Good.
Don't be caught out there.
Good flash and a TP force from Nick War looking to try and engage, get something out of this teleport. True Shot Barrage landing on Slappy. Slappy losing a lot of his HP to the Camille Q there. Great stun from Ogapa just to make sure that kill lands onto Slappy. Another one picked up onto Randy Newman as well. Nick War on a killing spree. Leroy teleporting in, looking for some kind of trade back. Sleeping Giant maybe looking for a flank here. Has the Stormbringer available. Brings down the hammer, and that's going to be tower disabled. That's going to be Leroy taken out of the fight. Deathgrip's just trying to survive as long as possible. Use that Red Cane healing. But Sleeping Giant, godlike on the volley there. 7-0. And it's just a bloodbath in the favor of AoE.
Yeah, and AoECC is kind of running away with the game again. We're seeing a 5k gold lead over in their favor here. That's a full item plus some change, like item in the BF Sword's worth of money they have pretty much in their pockets, distribute out to the team is pretty much, but still, that's a lot in terms of a difference here, and just evening out or further pushing out their objective scores and doing pretty good job right now. I would say right now that Sleeping Giant, once we harp on this a lot, but we really want to point out Sleeping Giant, great job at the jungler. But to give credit, Nick War and Ogapa also doing great jobs in themselves as well. Ogapa looking for these more riskier dives that most assassins wouldn't be able to really complete, but because he's playing Echo, he knows that he can go in super hard, go for these super greedy sort of plays in order to get in there deep, and then just chrono break on out of there.
Absolutely. Again, just like in our previous game, the top sides of the map really being the important ones. The bottom lanes really just left to their own devices. But we see that work out a lot more in favor for Ezreal. He's a champion who doesn't need a lot of economy. His items are, in comparison to items that Jinx needs, pretty cheap. Manamune, not super expensive, really easy for him to stack. Divine Sunderer, the components are cheap. They're very good. Jinx looking to pick up the second item, possibly the Runelands. But with only the shield low in inventory right now, she is just not really a marksman who's going to be doing a lot for your team. With the third dragon going in favor of AoECC, they're looking to get at Soul Point at the around the 27-minute mark if they lock it all in. Deathgrip's getting stunned by Nick Wars. Hextech Ultimatum coming down. A good knockup from him. It's the Umbral Trespass, but he's just going to die immediately upon coming out. Great timing on the True Shot Barrage to guarantee the kill for Zedrus. And this is just a bit of a disaster of a game for Lamp. AoECC playing this very well. This Volibear incredibly strong on the front line.
Yeah, they're doing just quite wonders. Like I said, they're piloting this sort of team comps really well and very just composed in a way they understand what their objectives are to do. They know what their strong points are, and they're really pushing for that. They're pushing for the Giant to really get a lead off, and then maybe translating some of those kills over for everyone else, just because he's such an overwhelming presence. And because of that, bot lane gets left out to dry, but they're sort of just that late game sort of reassurance plus a little bit of that DPSers in order to whittle down some of their opponents as well. So again, I just really want to harp on it that AoECC is just playing their team comp very well, while Lampost is still trying to collect on what they're trying to do, and generally how are they going to plan on surviving in this game a little bit longer.
Yeah, we just saw a little bit of the power of the Echo there. That big trade onto Leroy with absolutely no damage traded back, just because of the power of that stun and the movement speed from that Z-Drive passive. Yeah, like you were saying, the early and mid game coming out very strong from Sleeping Giant. If AoECC does end up closing out this game, I would be remiss to not give him MVP of the series. Performing incredibly well, even having two of his comfort champions banned away. Maybe a mistake from Lampost to not ban away the Volibear in game 2, but hindsight is always a lot easier to play around, so difficult to say for them. It's certainly not an easy position to be in.
Definitely so, but not to we talk about this a lot, but I do want to point out there is always a way for Lampost to get back into this game as well. They do have a little bit of a tougher team to fight from behind. They don't have sort of that strong late game that's kind of tanks have, where you can just walk wherever you want to because you have just a health bar way bigger than everyone else's. But they do have ways to get back into this game that they had to play a little bit smarter here and not get picked off like that off of Nick War.
Yeah, the Leroy just a little bit too pushed up with no vision. A really sad spot to be in, just trying to collect this any sort of farm possible. Ogaba flashing aggressively to guarantee the kill onto Randy Newman. And in the meantime, his team is just going to start up the Baron. Despite how dire this game does look for Lamp, it is possible to come back. Champions like Kane and like Jinx have really impressive late games. Even with the small amount of anti-heal coming out from AoE the healing from Red Kane especially can be very difficult to play around. But in the meantime, Death Grips is really trying to escape this with his life. But all of the summon is being burned just to make sure he goes down. AoECC far enough ahead that they don't really need to care about the cooldowns that much. With this Baron buff now nearly 10,000 gold in the lead. Really just looking to pressure their lead as much as possible. Possibly looking for a quick close to the game before the Dragon Soul can even spawn.
Yeah, possibly so. I mean, they have the Baron buff alongside them. They have some pretty strong pushing power, and they're making a smart decision of trying to spread away or spread apart this Baron buff as well, making sure that, you know, you don't only need one person to Baron buff minions, so they're going to be using that to their advantage, having other people around and other lanes in order to make them more Baron buff minions in order to push out some of these towers as well. They're going to be recalling a little bit here. I'm sure that on some power spikes here, Ezreal already picking up that Manumune, all fully stacked as well, I should say, and looking to build his next item here.
Jinx has hit that second item power spike, but with the really incredible dive that AoECC has drafted, she's been forced into picking up not only Shield Bow as a defensive item, but also Mercury Treads as a defensive boots option. She's just really not spec'd for high damage. It's going to take her a lot longer to scale up into these damage items and into being a relevant ADC. If Lamp can delay a little bit and can try to just not allow this Dragon Soul to go over, there's a good possibility that they can come back. But with Slappy already getting picked out, going into the Death Realm, getting immediately taken out as Jacob Record burns the Unbreakable Will. This may just be the last moments of the game. Randy Newman looking to heal up off the Swain ulti, forced to flash away from Ogapub, but Ogapub is going to find him anyway. And in the meantime, Nick War is burning the Hextech Ultimatum. Leroy using the Unleashed Power, but it's just not going to be any damage behind it right now. With those couple of kills, looks like AoECC is going to secure that Mountain Soul.
It's going to be Mountain Soul for them, just because it was nearly a full team ace there. Death Grip's only the person left alive, and that's thanks to all the sustain he has, and also that a lot of members already decided to move away from trying to pick up more kills into let's take some more towers to grab the last dragon and then maybe look to end to the game here, because there's not too much resistance in order for AoECC to go for it. And for the team comp that Lamp has drafted, it is going to be a bit harder to try to play from behind. My favorite way to play from behind here is just generally look for picks here, but oh.
Yeah, just the damage from Red Buff Ezreal, really difficult to play around. Levi also just getting absolutely blown up. The damage from this Ezreal is massive. Sleeping Giant landing the Stormbringer on 2 Nexus towers. And it looks like that is just going to be the end of the game. 16,000 gold in the lead. AoECC looking to make it a clean 2-0 series from them.
What? Series. I mean, honestly, there's just so much to talk about. First of all, so first, we already harped on it a lot, but I do want to say congratulations once again, and to AoECC and Sleepy Giant. Really well played there. Ogapa, you have a very similar score in this game too, but I really want to harp down from the game 1 and game 2 that Sleeping Giant was a great pivot point for you guys, and then that top side just snowballs out of control for AoECC.
Yeah, they drafted the team comp that they knew how to execute really well on. Both in game 1 and game 2, they played around their top side of the map, those early skirmishes, snowballing into those mid-game leads, and snowballing that into the later into the game. the extra objectives with the Baron, the Dragons, just making it really difficult for Lampost to play around. I think I don't dislike what Lampost was drafting. I don't dislike how they were fully executing, but it was just it just felt like a bit of a comfort difference. It felt like AoE was really, really safe on the champions that they were playing.
Yeah, and it didn't look like it for Lamppost here. It didn't look like they weren't super comfortable with what they were picking up with, or at least they couldn't play around with what they wanted to. So unfortunately, they weren't able to pick up the A game here after such an amazing game from last week. So unfortunate to see here. Thanks for playing in the Get Wrecked Summer Splashdown for this little in between season split. And hopefully we'll see you guys again here. Congratulations once again to AOECC. You guys will be moving up to the semifinals, which we'll be playing this Saturday and Sunday. I'm going to be finalizing the schedule for, or I'm going to be filling in some of that schedule so I can get you guys suited for which game you're going to be doing next. But in any case here, I've been Resco Dragon, and thank you once again to What's Too Pretty for casting alongside of me. Where can we find some more of your stuff here?
I will be casting the ICB game playing on Thursday on my own Twitch channel, twitch.tv/whattobritty. It's the same as my Discord username. I try to keep the same username everywhere just to make it simple. Again, it was really an honor to be on the cast here with you. Thanks for having me on. I really do appreciate it. And hopefully we'll get to cast again soon. This was a great time.
Hopefully. So, once again, I'm just going to say it one last time here. I've been Red Skull Dragon. He's been What's Too Pretty. And we'll be checking on out. Thank you guys for coming out here tonight. And we will be closing out. So, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.